Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to my channel, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. I'm your host. And tonight's episode is another installment of our HOA Gone Wild series where we see just how far the insanity can go. When you combine homeowners association with overzealous busybodies, this story is actually sent to me by one of our subscribers, and I read it. I laughed because the look on the guy's face when he realized he was messing with a Navy SEAL, priceless. So check this out. This happened last week. HOA cops pulled a gun on my wife. Didn't know she's Navy SEAL tactical trainer. Okay, so I want to get something off my chest. If you are an HOA board member or an HOA cop or whatever you want to call yourself, you have too much power. You are not better than anyone else in your neighborhood. Just because you have a badge, that doesn't mean you're a police officer. And you do not have the right to put your hands on someone unless you have reasonable suspicion of a crime being committed. Otherwise, you're committing battery. So remember that next time you feel like you need to flex your little HOA badges. You're not a cop. Okay, now let's dive into this story. See if you can find the part that makes you laugh. Now, I've got to warn you, there's some colorful language in here and there's a reason for it, but I think it's pretty damn funny. Our HOA cops showed up at our house last night around 9:30 p.m. Apparently they were responding to a neighbor's complaint about my wife shooting her bow in the backyard. She was practicing indoor shots for an upcoming competition. Our backyard is completely fenced in, and all the windows are either closed or boarded up, since we are currently in the process of remodeling our house. The only noise that could possibly carry past our property line is the sound of the range fan. It's the loud fan that pulls air through the range hood and out the side of the house. The fan is probably louder than the bow. We received a warning letter from our HOA a few months ago, stating that we had to stop practicing inside the garage because the sound was disturbing the neighbors. My wife explained that she was practicing for a national competition and asked if we could meet with the HOA to discuss reasonable accommodations. They refused and stated that we would have to cease all activity in the garage that produces noise until further notice. Since we couldn't come to an agreement, my wife filed a complaint with the city because the HOA is clearly violating our right to quiet enjoyment of our property. The city issued us a notice of violation, and the HOA was ordered to cease all harassment and cease and desist. We even had a follow-up inspection from the city to ensure that the HOA wasn't trying to sneak in another complaint against us. After we received the notice of violation from the city, the HOA sent us a letter stating that we could resume normal activities. However, they retracted that letter a few days later, citing a new complaint. Last week, my wife received a phone call from an HOA cop telling her that she was not allowed to shoot inside the garage under any circumstances and that she would be arrested if she was caught practicing again. He said that we weren't supposed to have received the notice of violation from the city because we are uncurrent on our HOA dues. He threatened her with arrest and told her that she should lawyer up. Keep in mind that none of this has anything to do with the HOA dues. I will admit that I was planning on recording video of my wife practicing today so that I could post it on YouTube. However, after receiving threats of arrest, I figured that it would be best to wait until things cool down, and last night happens. My wife opened the back door to take out the trash and the HOA cops snuck into our backyard, smashed the glass window in the kitchen, and pointed a gun at my wife. I immediately ran into the backyard in my boxers, and the HOA cop pointed the gun at me as well. When he saw that I was wearing only boxers, he holstered his gun and asked if my wife was home. I responded by asking why they broke the window and trespassed onto our property. He responded that we violated our agreement with the HOA. I told him that he trespassed onto private property and broke the window, and then I started recording video with my cell phone. At that point, he started asking for my ID and registration to my vehicle. I told him that he's trespassing and he needs to leave immediately. He refused and continued to ask for my ID. At that point, I walked back into the house to retrieve my ID and he followed me. I told him that he needs to get off my property now. He tried to grab my arm and I swatted his hand away. He immediately drew his gun and pointed it at me. I told him that I'm calling the police and he told me that he already called them. He said that I was resisting arrest and that I was going to jail. He then pushed me backwards towards my garage door. I tripped and fell, scraping both palms. When I looked up, he was kneeling over me with his gun pointed at my head. My wife came out the front door at that point and told the cop to get off my back. He stood up and turned to her and asked if she was the resident. She told him yes. He then asked for her ID and she handed it to him without saying a word. He looked at her ID and then asked her why she was home if she knew that we were supposed to be here. She responded by asking if he was really going to continue harassing us after the city served the HOA with a notice of violation, and the state attorney general sent us a letter stating that the HOA is violating our rights. She also asked if he was really going to arrest my wife after threatening her over the phone and pointing a gun at her. He mumbled something about us being in violation, and he asked her if she had a bow inside the house. She told him that she did. He asked if he could see it, and she said no. He then told her that he was going to search the house, and she told him to go ahead. He started searching the house, and she started laughing hysterically. He stopped and asked if something was funny. She told him that he's breaking and entering into a private residence. He responded by saying that he had permission because she gave him consent. She then asked if he knew who she was, and he said that he didn't. She then told him that she was a Navy SEAL tactical trainer, and she was getting ready to brief a class in the morning. He immediately apologized and said that he was sorry for the misunderstanding. He left without finding anything, and he hasn't been back since. This happened on April 2021 in Florida. I know what's funny about this is a former police officer, current active duty military, and all-around firearms enthusiast. I hope that you understand the difference between an HOA cop and a real police officer. And I'm hoping that whoever this individual is that thinks that they a real law enforcement officer, maybe by proxy they've been around law enforcement long enough to think that they're a real cop. Let's start there. First of all, police officers, real police officers, not HOA, do not break into people's houses. It's called a home invasion. And if you have to do that, you need a warrant and you need probable cause. Secondly, if they're kneeling on top of you with a gun, like a real gun pointed at your head, chances are they are not an HOA cop. Because if an HOA cop has a gun pointed at your head, he's gone, not be sweating bullets, because he knows he's about to go to jail for using excessive force. Real cops do unsweat because they know that they recovered by their agency most of the time. And thirdly, if you re-talking to somebody and they tell you who they work for and you start laughing at them, you know that they're not a real cop. Why? Because real cops will back you up in a second, and real cops won't stand for anybody making fun of them, especially if they're trying to issue you a citation. And that's exactly what happened in this case. But what I love about this entire story is that this HOA went so far as to point a real firearm at this woman. Didn't know that she was a Navy SEAL tactical training, firearms training all-around badass lady. And in the end, they ended up looking like the fools that they are. And hopefully this serves as a lesson to every other HOA out there. You do not have the authority to harass people. You do not have the authority to trespass. You definitely don't have the authority to pull a gun on somebody. Otherwise, you're going to end up spending a lot of time in jail. And that's all I've got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this story. It made me laugh. Made me angry, but it made me laugh. And if you've got a story to share, please send it in. I'll read it, I'll put it up, just like I did with this one. Thanks so much to the subscriber who sent this one in. And we will see you on the next one. See you later.